So today we're doing a breakdown, and today we're breaking down War, which is the last song of the album that's just recently come out. And we're just going to do a quick breakdown of this track. There's quite a lot going on, but it's quite a simple one for how complex it sounds. I'll do a little rundown of the drop. Let's go through it. It's super simple. So we start off with this pad. So it's a piano with some textured sounds behind it. I've upped the highs a lot here and added a lot of reverb. And then I've added an LFO onto it so it comes in for the main verse. It gets really glitchy and experimental, which is, again, one of my favorite things to do. So in order to get that effect, there's two things going on here. So the initial pad at the back, the low end, has an LFO on it, which looks like this. So this is just changing the level of that track to increase in volume to this point and drop every 8th beat. You can hear the volume cutting out. And then underneath it, we have this. This is a really cool. This is a really cool textured version of that pad. What I've done is I've set this little parameter here to beats, transients, the little arrow with the line, and dropped it to 13. And what that means is that it plays every transient, 13% of that transient. It's not exactly 13%, but that's the way I look at it. So every time it finds a transient, it puts a little line here. It will play the section where those lines pop up. And if you increase this number up to 100, let's say, it will play the full section of audio. You can hear it cutting off. You can hear it cut off where those transients change over. So I dropped it to 13, which means it plays only a tiny part. So that's why I say 13%. I treat it as a percentile. It's not really. If you put it to 0, you still hear it, but very little. With having a delay and a reverb on top of that, it means you can create a lot of width and have it bounce from left to right, especially with delay. And then underneath that, I've got a kick and a snare. Really low end kick. And it doesn't actually come in until, yeah. So it's played through a bit. I've turned these kicks off on purpose. It helps focus on that texture in my vocals. So I've got very whispery vocals here. They're very highly saturated. This allows it to sound kind of ghostly. Especially with a really auto-tuned, high-pitched version of myself above it. You get this. Super cool sounds. And then underneath it, we've got the substomach. Oh, disgusting. On top of that, a vital sub as well, just to double up. So when you play it all together, you get this. Yeah, and on top of it, just to extra layer it, just a really simple saw wave. And that adds a bunch of high end. See. Really cool way of putting those pieces together. And the reason these kicks are removed is to allow that pad to come through with the LFO, so it kind of echoes in. You'll hit. I'll tell you when. There. You get it. You get it echo through. You get this bit echo through and become the center of the attention for the listener. At the end of this verse, this glitch effects come in. Really fantastic sound. Ooh, especially that low end. And then there's a high end on that buzzsaw bass, which gets pulled back down to the low. And this, again, adds that weird glitchy electronic texture, which I love doing. Whisper vocals, I love these. So this is the same vocal mix, except I've removed loads of lows. So I've just whispered why into the microphone, dropped all the low end to make it nice and wide. And then I've applied Dear VR Micro, which is a really cool plugin for space. So what this does is this is kind of like a panning plugin, except not specifically just for panning left to right. When I was younger, there was these videos that went viral of fake haircuts where you'd put a pair of good headphones on and they'd be cutting your hair by your ear. and you could hear it as if there was someone actually there, and you'd almost feel it because it was so like realistic. So this is what this is for. This is the free one, DAVR Micro, and it basically just allows you to place a sound wherever you want in a room with relative to that person listening. If you've seen ASMR microphones, the ones with literal ears on them, it's kind of like that, not as advanced, but you can place anything anywhere. So I've put it right behind you, but quite wide. So it sounds like it's whispering behind you. I can move it to the right-hand side if you're wearing headphones. You can hear it like they're whispering right in your ear. It's a really cool plugin, and it's worth getting. It's free. I mean, why wouldn't you? And it's got elevation settings as well, so you can turn it up and down. So it's super cool. Super cool to work with. And then the second verse comes in. This has just got a hi-hat in there. Let's cut off. And a little pre-hat, which is really fun. So it just adds that groove. Then I have the bass cut off all the way up until the second hit. Like sweep up. And then the drop comes in. So I'll get into the drop in a moment. But just before that pre-drop, you have me saying all night. And then I say it again, and it goes really growly. So what this is my vocal pitched down by 12 with the formant set to 0. The formant is basically just letting you know what the vocal is going to sound like. And then underneath, I've got one that's dropped by 24, so 2 octaves lower. Now, the difference with this one is that I've increased the saturation, but I've also made it really wide. So again, using wider, I use this in every breakdown or beat breakdown. This is a great plugin just to add width to any sound. So it's super fun. So here we've got my vocals doing the lead. Now this is just maximum saturation. So as you can see, I've put a saturator on it. I've got it set to about 26 on the drive and down by -10 on the output, just obviously because you don't want it to be super loud. And this is here to make it sound less like vocals and more like a synth lead or something like that, and then a bunch of reverb on it. Really cool noise. I suppose weekendy, not really weekendy. Weekend doesn't do, stuff that's that electronic. And then we've got this cool sample. So this is using LFO Tool again, as you can see here, but we've got a different shape. This lets it pop up more than get pulled down. So you go, have it come in instead of get pulled out. Again, it's chopped and glitched. So I've got duplicates here to add that variation. This is a reversed vocal chop, by the way. I love reversing stuff, and it creates new, interesting melodies that you can then pull from an effect. It originally sounds like this. Yeah, it's very similar. It just makes that ghostly atmosphere kind of come through more. And then to double up, this is the same thing. We've got a beat transient set to 100, so it plays a transient when it hears it, and sometimes it comes in at random points, and that helps create a bit of a glitchy experimental texture to it. But you double layer those sounds, and that helps create this cool drop. And then I've got variations in the glitching where see how it duplicates itself here on a high end and then stops and then duplicates it on the other end. So you get this variation here. See how it swapped from the ears? And then I've added that glitch sound we had before, but reversed it so it's wet. It sounds really wet. It sounds like something's bubbling or something, God knows. Really cool. So you have that all together and it adds a really cool variation. Again, bass line is the same, except on the end. So for those 2 hits, as you can see, I've got another substomach here. That's just a really low sub. That's wide. It just adds a little bit more to the bass at different areas. I've got a new technique now for adding bass variation, which I'll do in another video. I want to do a specific video on bass design, which will be really fun. So now we hit the second part of the drop, and this second part has hi-hats, obviously, just to add that classic bit of high-end variation, and this chop, which is a Vital pluck. So here we go, Swiss Army knife fixed. So this is a preset already on Vital, as it comes with Vital actually, and I've just fixed it by I've not fixed it. I've fixed it for me. It's all subjective. Some of the saw waves were out of pitch and out of key, and the whole thing was actually also transposed by a couple of notes, which I thought was quite odd. So I've just set it back to default. So it's played on C. C plays on C, which is what we want. So this comes in. It plays through the back of the track. I've got Ruiner on it, which is this amazing plugin I showed last time, which just adds so much. And Doom all the way up. It adds that low end. Probably one of the cooler parts of this track is this second verse. I cut the low pad and keep the high pad, which has that delay chopping. And I switched through 3 different vocal styles. So I'll play it through and I'll show you what I mean. Death in your eyes, taste the demise. I feel pain and torture surprise. So the first vocal is raw. Barely any effects, some auto-tune obviously and stuff, but no reverb. It just focuses on the vocal purely. Death in your eyes, taste the demise. Still saturated, obviously. Death in your eyes, taste the demise. So all that reverb's gone, and it makes the vocal really pop out and stand out. Then the standard vocal mix comes in. I feel pain and torture surprise. And then I have the same pure vocal, and underneath it, I've now switched on the midnight EQ. It's here, switched on. This just makes it sound like it's coming through a phone. I do this all the time. Said it in the last couple of streams and videos too. So that's a really cool way of varying that verse, and then a breath at the end to add a cool ghostly feeling, I guess you could say. And I've also pulled that low tone from the glitching and just soloed it out and had it come through as well before that breath comes in. So you get a lot of left and right switching, different styles come through. So I'll play it through again. Death in your eyes, taste the demise. I feel pain and torture surprise. And a cool little sweep up here that gets cut off immediately. For this vocal set, I've just chopped the vocals up and repeated them just to add a bit of glitching variation. I do that sometimes. So the difference with this is I've chopped up the volume. So this is the volume automation. It comes off every third. And then we're back to the build up, which is the same as the other one. I was really happy with the drop, so I didn't really feel the necessity to have a second variation on it. But when I do things like that, it makes me feel like the song isn't, as interesting. So if I have a song that has the same drop twice, what I tend to do is throw in a switch up for the beat. So what I've done here is at the end, our tempo goes down. So we're on 125 right now, and as we come to the end, we drop down to 100. That is to help keep the song interesting and varied, while also allowing me to have the same drop twice because I enjoy so much. So you can hear the switch up now. Yeah. So the cool thing about this is all the same sounds, just slowed. No pitch change or anything. A little bit more reverb on it and delay. And that's it. To have that transition, I have a shh noise. Shh. It's just me obviously telling you to shut up. We have this little percussion here to help bring that tempo in, so it doesn't just come out of nowhere. You get that anticipation of a change. And then for the second vocals, it's just a harmonization, which is really fun. So we've got, and then underneath. So it's really fun to kind of add those those vocals in, because it just makes it push through. The initial vocals on this second section they've got filter on. They're squashed. The high end is basically removed, and then when the seconds come in, that high end comes back, and it makes you go, oh my god, yes. That singing comes in, makes it almost choir-esque, but it makes the harmony come in more. You get it. And that is how War was put together. A really, really fun track. One of my favourites, to be honest. so I love messing with it.